Hi, my name's Martin Starkey and I'm the Training Manager for Licence Bureau, part of the TTC Group, and I'd like to welcome you here today to Returning to the Road. Now, for the past few weeks, we've been on lockdown, and so we haven't been driving as much as we were before. But as these lockdown restrictions start to get eased, then we need to be out on the road again. The purpose of today is to give you some hints, tips, and ideas of how you can do that safely and make you a more confident driver on the road. Okay, so let's jump straight in and look at what we're going to be talking about here today. We're going to start by asking a fundamental question, which is, do I need to be driving at all? Are there any ways that I could still meet with my clients and customers that would actually mean I don't actually have to get behind the wheel in the first place? If I do, though, decide to go out, it's quite possible that during lockdown, your vehicle has developed a fault that you're not aware of. So we're going to look at how to check your vehicle over and make sure it's safe, legal, and roadworthy. I'm going to walk you through all the things that you need to clean on your vehicle to make sure it's safe not only for you, but for anybody that may be driving that vehicle after you. Sadly, vehicles don't go very far without fuel, so we're going to look at refueling and how we can make sure it's as safe as possible for us and anybody else that's following along at the pumps. Once we're out on the road though, one of the sad truths of lockdown is that a lot of drivers have been convicted for speeding. So we're going to look at speed awareness and how you can stay within the law. Finally, we're going to have a look at how to plan your journey properly to make sure that your journey is as physically safe not only for you, but for all those around you and that you share the road with. So as we said before, one of the fundamental questions that we need to be asking is actually, do we need to be driving in the first place? During lockdown, a lot of us became very familiar with using video conferencing facilities to speak to our friends and family, such as Zoom or even Teams or WebEx. Why not suggest those as a means of meeting your clients as opposed to driving? Think about all the time that you'd save yourself not being on the road. Think about all the fuel that you'd save, and also think about all the risk that you wouldn't be exposing yourself and others to at the same time. It's well worth a thought suggesting one of these virtual meetings as opposed to going out on the road. As we said earlier, it may be possible that as your vehicle's not moved far during lockdown, that it could have developed a fault that you're not aware of. A really simple mnemonic that we can all use in order to be able to know what to check on the vehicle is the word powders. P stands for petrol, or whatever fuel source your vehicle runs on. O stands for oil, making sure that when you check your oil that it falls between the two marks on the dipstick. W stands for water, making sure that your coolant level is between the minimum and maximum level and that you've also topped your screen wash up too. D stands for damage, making sure that you've not picked up any damage during lockdown and that you won't be shedding parts of your vehicle as you drive down the road. E stands for electrics, making sure that these are all good, there are no warning lights on your dashboard and all your lights are working. R stands for rubber, making sure that the pressures in your tyres are good, which you can do by knowing what pressures there are by looking at the little plaque that's at the side of the driver's door column, or alternatively going on the internet and looking at websites like this one, where you just pop in your registration number and it'll tell you the tyre pressures for your vehicle. You also need to be aware of the tread level of your vehicle, and you can do this by looking for a little indicator on the sidewall. In this case, it's a triangle, but it could be the letters TWI. If you look across from these, you will feel a little bar, which is set at 1.6 millimeters, which is the minimum tread depth for driving in the UK. Finally, S stands for self, making sure that you're well enough to drive, that you're not under the influence of alcohol, you're well rested, and that you're mentally fit to be doing the job in the first place. It's been pretty well documented now that one of the easiest ways that we can stop spread of the virus is simple hand washing. So we would always recommend that whenever you leave the vehicle that you wash your hands with soap and water for a minimum of 20 seconds. If that's not always logistically possible, the use of a hand gel or hand sanitizer with at least a 60% ethanol rating in it should do the job just as good. I'd also like to clear up a bit of an urban myth that seems to have occurred around hand gel and catching fire in a vehicle because it contains an alcohol-based spirit. Whilst we still live on planet Earth, it is actually very unusual that this is going to happen. In order to be able to combust hand gel, the temperature inside your vehicle would need to reach around about 700 degrees. This obviously is very unlikely to happen. So please don't be afraid to carry hand gel in your vehicle because it's far more likely to save your life than it is to catch fire. Once we're outside the vehicle though, again, I think it's pretty well documented again that the minimum safe distance that we should be away from anybody else is 2 meters. But that's outside the vehicle. What do we need to clean inside the vehicle to make sure it's safe for others and anybody else that may be driving the vehicle after you? Let's have a look.
The first thing that we need to do is wipe down any door handles that others may have touched. Once we've opened the door, we should wipe down any door handles and any interior switches. Once we're inside the vehicle, we should give the steering wheel a thorough clean down. Indicator and wiper stalks, along with any gear selector, interior switches, any touchscreen devices, rear view mirror, glove box, and any internal storage. Finally, before we clean and press the start button or turn the keys on the ignition system, we should give a final wipe down to the seatbelt and seatbelt holder, and we should be ready to go. One of the easy places to pick up the virus is at a petrol station. So for the time being, we need to take extra care when we're refueling our vehicle. Before you use the pump, pop on a pair of gloves. This makes sure you won't pick up any contaminants and it's safe for the next person using the pump behind you. When you finish refueling, be sure to dispose of your gloves. Ideally, if you can pay at the pump, then do so. But if you have to go inside the petrol station to pay, then before you do, pop on a simple mask or face covering. Observe any social distancing inside the petrol station and any other one-way systems that may be in operation. And if you can, pay using contactless. And don't forget, if we're putting air in our tyres, or refilling our screen wash, or using any on-site cleaning facilities, it may be worth giving these a clean down before you use them too. And remember, all the same cleaning protocols apply if you have an electric vehicle too.
As we said before, since lockdown, the amount of people convicted of speeding has risen dramatically. In fact, since March the 23rd, the number of drivers convicted for speeding in the UK has risen by 36%. Sadly, in Greater Manchester, this is even as high as 57%. This is despite a drop in overall traffic volumes in the same time of around about 75%. Sadly, though, there's always going to be one or two drivers who want to take everything to the 8th degree, and a driver was recently convicted of doing 134 miles an hour in a 40 mile an hour zone. Another driver was convicted of doing 151 on the M1. Now, after lockdown starts to get eased, what we should start to see are more people avoiding using public transport. And so we should start to see a lot more people walking on foot, and we should start to see a lot more cycles. In Glasgow alone, the amount of cycle use has actually risen by 75%. Both of these count themselves as vulnerable road users, and we won't always hear them coming. We need to be mindful of this and watch our speed to make sure that everybody is as safe as possible when you're taking your journey. Finally today, with the easing of the lockdown, we're going to talk about how to plan your journey. The first thing that you may need to ask yourself, as we said before, is actually, do I need to be driving in the first place? Decide whether you actually do need to take that journey or whether there are alternative means that you could see your clients. The second thing that you need to do is leave more time. Although that the roads may be emptier than they were before, this is nothing to say that there still won't be road traffic accidents and also that there won't be construction work happening. So leave plenty of time so that you're not in a rush and flustered on the journey. The next thing we'd recommend you do is take refreshments with you. Supermarkets, as you may have already discovered, will probably have quite large queues outside of them. So this will have an impact on your journey time, and unfortunately it may make you feel a bit stressed again about the rest of the journey still to come. So take stuff with you that you think you're going to need. Always take any PPE equipment along with you that you think you may need for your journey, especially if it's going to involve you parking up and then getting on public transport to complete your journey. The next thing you need to do is just make sure that you're taking regular breaks and also factor in enough time to be able to do this too. Some service stations may have different protocols than they had before. Sometimes all the toilet facilities may take a little bit of more queuing as they may have some cubicles blocked off. So always make sure that you're leaving plenty of time to take a break and that you're not stressed on the road again. Finally, always have a plan that if you do start to feel unwell of what you're going to do and how you're going to get yourself back home, reducing the amount of physical contact that you're likely to have with anybody else. Well, that brings us to the end of Returning to the Road. I hope you found it a useful experience and that you learned a little bit along the way. If you'd like to know more about the TTC Group and learn more about all the great products we have, including our full range of compliance and risk management services, then please call the numbers below. In the meantime, though, I'd like to wish you a safe and pleasant onward journey. Thank you very much.